Hey y'all, emergency player here. Taking your first steps is always difficult. And when I did mine, I fell down the stairs in the Philippines. Oh, that's why I'm like that. But eventually you'll take your second step, then third, fourth, fifth, and 13 years later, you'll find yourself running in last place for a 5K in cross country because your school ran out of PE classes to place you in. But that first step is always going to be the one that got you there. My first steps into game development didn't happen until I got into college. I've always edged the idea of making my own games, but never fully committed to the idea. Cowboy Zelda was my first time properly working on a game engine to make a top-down cowboy shooter inspired by The Legend of Zelda on the NES. It was a daunting and difficult start, but just like anyone's first steps, all it takes is the first one. And just like my first steps, this fell down the stairs and caused permanent damage to my brain. When I joined my university's game development club, I already missed a month's worth of meetings. Luckily, I was bored enough to try the most important meeting of the semester. The game pitches. The game pitches define the Cal Poly Pomona Game Development Club. Our club lives off of the motto that anyone can make a game. And the game pitches make that motto into a reality. So this is how it works. Anyone, regardless of experience, can submit an application to pitch a game to the club. On pitch day, everyone who applied will present their game idea to the club. They'll talk about what the game is about and who they're looking for. What is the minimum viable product? Everyone else will have the opportunity to join the game that interests them most. These teams will have the semester to work on the game's minimum viable product, or MVP. At the end of the semester, an event will be hosted for the teams to show off their work throughout that semester. So how is the Cowboy Zelda pitch?
So basically it's Legend of Zelda 2D dungeon crawler. But it's gonna be cowboy based.
This pitch convinced me to join the team as a programmer. In our first meeting, Tony mentioned that he had a specific role in the club that would have him miss every other meeting. He asked for someone to be his second in command to help him lead during the meetings that he would miss. For some reason I volunteered, with no prior game dev experience, mind you. Every week the team would have a meeting, but overall progress was very slow. Just a few art assets from Jonah here and there, or some music from Princess, but not a lot of code. Then, the last week approached. I genuinely thought I would get kicked out of the club if I presented an unfinished game. So that weekend, I got to work. I opened up Unity and started watching every Brackeys video you could imagine. From top-down movement to the animator. YouTube, in general, was a really amazing resource to use for this project. For 3 days straight, I was working on this game to get it done. In my mind, my future in this club was dependent on this project. After pulling my only all-nighter in college, on Tuesday morning, I compiled everything I had and went into that meeting, apologizing profusely. Then the president at the time was like, "Bro, you didn't have to finish the game." Little did I know, the president herself pitched the game and didn't finish it either. So then I presented the game, realizing that it was not that serious. But even though it wasn't perfect, I was proud of what I had. So what did this game even have? Just like the pitch, the game is a top-down NES Zelda style game, but with a cowboy. You shoot in the direction of where your character moves, but this time with a 360 direction. And each bullet is one shot, one kill. Because I didn't know how to code a health system. There are 3 enemy types. The skeletons, enemies that walk towards you and shoot projectiles at you. The bird, which moves around randomly until you enter its range, and then it dives at you. And Train Man, which was a concept I had when I made a game in Scratch and tried to make a Rivals of Aether character but gave up. He just shoots a shit ton of bullets at you. In terms of maps, there are 4 main maps and 1 secret map. There's the opening desert, then we have 2 caves/mines, and then finally the final desert, which features a bar. The secret map is this red area for me to vent when I was making the game. Without looking at the problems, this game was very simple, and functions as a very slow position-based top-down shooter, where you need to time your positioning and shots very carefully to eliminate enemies and move closer to the objective. Now, what were the problems? The problems can be split up into 2 sections: poor game design decisions and bugs. In terms of poor game design decisions, there were a few. Let's talk about hitboxes. So in Cowboy Zelda, the enemy hitboxes are smaller than the art itself, because for some reason I thought I should artificially add challenge. Making these hitboxes smaller than what you see on screen is literally the opposite of what you should be doing in a single player game. You should make them a bit larger to give more leeway to the player themselves, because not everything's going to be pixel perfect, but for some reason, again, I made this smaller. This hitbox issue brings us to the most problematic enemy in the game. Because the bird itself was already so small and fast, being 3 times faster than the player, its hitbox being smaller made the bird notoriously difficult to kill. Especially that shooting could only be aimed by the player direction and not the mouse. This difficulty would lead to the Train Man boss fight was also a very problematic design decision. It was just a skeleton code, but the firing rate was insane for the bullets. It would create this line of bullets that would head towards you. Now the problem is where Train Man is positioned. If you go up, you are guaranteed to fail as all the other skeletons in the area, and then you'll have to go back down, but you can't go back down because there's a line of bullets stopping you. This means that there's only one possible pathway to avoid Train Man, and it also means that it's not really a fight. It's just more like dodging the attacks and trying to get to the bar, which is your objective. But now let's focus on bugs.